Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Evolution Now Podcast. I'm your host as always, Mr. Terrance Johnson. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, I want to thank you for your support, the subscribers, the followers, as we are embarking on our journey to 80,000 followers. I can't thank you enough. Make sure you go over to the YouTube and subscribe as well to check out the full podcast. I know on Instagram you just get the reels and things of that nature. But in any aspect of it, thank you so much. As always, I'm in the studio with my trusted sidekick, Gus, over here. And there's Gus in the background, and my beautiful wife is with me as well. As always, we got a lot to cover today, so I hope you guys gather something from it. I really do appreciate all the great and wonderful positive comments. And why do I do this? I really want you to get something from it. Hopefully you can apply it to your life and you can see the benefit of it as you continue on this journey in which we call life itself. So with that being said, Gus, shoot away. What questions do we have today?
Well, I think most of our questions, we had a lot of people ask about the economics happening, all the news and about the economy and everything. But with all this stress, what are your thoughts on the future of economics, both personally and collectively?
Well, from collectively, we're obviously in a great deal of flux. The country is roughly $34-35 trillion in debt. There's no way you can tax your way out of that situation. We see that there's a great deal of economic hardship throughout the globe that's touching all people of all races and all backgrounds. What I would suggest to you, whatever your situation is to take some time and sit down and truly think about your future, truly think about where do you want to wind up. I am not here, no one's paying me to advertise anything. I'm not a financial advisor, if you will, but if it were me, I would tell you to definitely look at cryptocurrencies. I would definitely tell you to look at precious metals, things of that nature. Even investing in stocks, unless you are a trader, which I know some who do very well at it, it's very difficult to become financially free just investing in stocks and things of that nature. Not that it's not possible, but it takes a great deal of time. My advice to you is start as young as you possibly can. Obviously, the older you get, the more difficult it is because your obligations and your fiduciary responsibilities will increase, mortgages, car payments, things of that nature. But from a personal perspective, I do my very best to be strategic, whatever I'm doing financially, to do my due diligence and things of that nature. What I will suggest to you that it's not impossible. Let me just be clear about that. It's not very difficult. You know, in mentoring a lot of people, what I find that happens often is just most people have bad spending habits. You know, we just lack the discipline to do what we need to do as opposed to what we want to do. And that in itself might be joyful, especially when you're younger, you're doing what you want to do. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have fun. I had fun when I was a younger man, believe me. But the fact of the matter is, when we're 25 and 26, we're not thinking about when we're 50. And when we're 50, we're not thinking about when we're 70. It's just kind of human nature, I suppose. But all these challenges can be overcome with proper planning and doing your due diligence. Educate yourself. You know, you're in the information age where you can Google pretty much anything. You can go to YouTube and find out pretty much any piece of information you want. So really, ultimately, it comes down to what do you want to wind up? You would be foolish. Let me reiterate this point. You would be extremely foolish not to consider your financial future and your obligations. I will say that no one's coming to save you, so it is incumbent upon you to save yourself. Now, how do I do that? It is simple. The acquisition of knowledge, particularly financial knowledge. Will it require discipline? Absolutely. Will it require consistency? Let there be no doubt. But ultimately, it requires decision. And so I hope in this answer that you find some level of comfort that it is possible for you, but you must be willing to pay the price, make the sacrifice so that you can be financially free. Because remember, things are only getting more expensive, and if things don't change, you will see things primarily get worse. I'm not a doomsayer, I'm just very much a realistic individual. Rents are roughly $2,000 a month now. Interest rates are high for buying a home. We saw the market crash substantially last week. So again, plan accordingly, hope for the best, expect the best, but also prepare for the worst. I would tell you that you should stockpile your food and water and things of that nature because anything can happen. We saw that happen a few years back when we had that episode of, going on with the company, with the country, with the virus that was, spreading throughout the world, if you will. So with that being said, plan appropriately, make sure that you do your due diligence and make sure that you put forth the appropriate effort to secure your financial future, particularly if you are married and you have children. Because at the end of the day, I must say this again, no one is coming to save you, so you must save yourself. Next question, Gus.
You've been such a good role model as far as a relationship, and can you speak on the benefits of having a good partner?
Well, I've been married, it'll be 32 years this year. I know marriage gets a bad rap, and that's a very good question because ultimately, I see men saying one thing, I see women saying one thing, and I would say this to both people. You're both are failing. And what I mean by this is that the plan that has been put in place to destroy the nuclear family is in full effect. If you can get a group of men and a group of women to literally hate each other, to literally hate the ideology of a family, being husband and wife, it's more than just destroying the nuclear family. It's more about destroying the individuals themselves. Unfortunately, because many people are easily influenced. And what I mean by that is this: if you hear something over and over and over, you become inundated with it. I believe if you take the time and understand the psychological warfare, that's what it really is. It's not just a physical thing, if you will. It's psychological. So if you hear your whole life, men are dogs, you're a brokey or whatever men, you hear the negative connotation that are said about men. And then you hear women are whores and trash and gold diggers. And you see this behavior portrayed in our society. You see this narrative put out in society. Unfortunately, if you were to look at those messages as seeds and you would look at an individual's mind as the ground, many of those seeds have taken root in the mind of people. And in taking root, when anything takes root in soil, it must bear its fruit. And it has. You see the demise of relationships. I feel very, very sad, to be honest with all people. I'm very, very disappointed that the enemy, and what I mean by the enemy is the evil one, if you will. The evil one is the darkness of the world that permeates throughout the world itself, from wars to disease to poverty to the breakdown of the family to criminal activity, all the things that are bad in the world. It's unfortunate because it was never meant to be this way. You were never meant to live your life alone. You were never meant to live your life being a whoremonger. You were never meant to live your life being a whore and sleeping with whoever you think you can sleep with and there's no consequence to it. That's not true. These things obviously not only damage the psyche, but they also damage the soul. Many people don't talk about the things that really truly matter, the things that really truly matter in our society. And the one thing that really truly matters, is the relationship between men and women. When you're constantly bombarded with a negative narrative of either individual, it can't help but breed the fruit of a negative outcome. So I would highly encourage you to guard your mind. Just because someone says something doesn't mean it's true. Let me reiterate that point again. Just because someone says something, there are no good men, doesn't mean it's true. Just because someone says all women are gold diggers, it doesn't mean it's true. You are still given a choice to choose what you believe. What I will advise you to do is to be very careful about who you allow into your circle and who you share your energy with. You must vet people, if you will. Unfortunately, we used to vet people for love. Now you're just vetting people to see if they have good character. So the benefits of having a significant other, are there challenges? Yes. Yes. Has my marriage been happy all the time? I would be less than solid to tell you otherwise. Hell no. We've had challenges like any other couple. But the fact of the matter is, I love my wife. I'm still in love with my wife, and I'm sure she would say the same thing. The advantage of being with someone, particularly over a long-term relationship, is you get to know each other in ways that you don't when you're only together a year. When you're together 30 years, 32 years, you get to a point where you truly become, if you will, from maybe a metaphysical or a quantum physics or even a spiritual perspective, one flesh, where you literally cannot see yourself without being with that person. Many people give up on their relationships too soon because the relationships faces challenges, be it financial, emotional, whatever the case might be. Now, I'm not advocating staying in a relationship that's toxic, there's physical abuse or anything like that. Let me be crystal clear about that. But if there's just general arguments, disagreements, things of that nature, the growth process of being in a relationship. Listen, that's why the vow says, in good times and in bad, for richer or for poor, till death do you part. Most people want a wedding. Well, maybe I would say a lot of women want a wedding, and most men want a woman, but they don't want the responsibility of taking care of that woman. Most women want a wedding, but don't want the responsibilities, if you will, of being a wife. You must understand these principles, but I will tell you this. When you're young, you think you know more than you do. Believe me, I fell victim to that myself. But at the end of the day, as you get older, you will realize it is not good to be alone. You will realize it is not good to be sick and there's no one there. There is no one there but you and your dog, or you or your fifth of Henny, or you or your bottle of wine. It was never meant for you to be this way. You must understand that there is an agenda. Believe me, there is an agenda to distract you from what is most important. You must have healthy, productive relationships in your life, and particularly a man and a woman must come together to raise their children together. Please, I understand a lot of people might not agree with this concept, but it is the only way for us to continue our civilization in a productive manner. Other than that, you see the mass chaos we're facing. We are the products of our thoughts, and you see where our thoughts have led us. So at the end of the day, it is highly advantageous for you to be involved in a relationship, particularly in a marriage. But it is only advantageous to you if you're with the individual that is worthy of you. Remember that. If a woman's just checking for your pockets or for your money, all women look for security. We get that. No different than us brothers trying to get the bag. We get that too. But if that's the only value she sees in you, that's probably not the woman for you. If your man is only wanting to lay with you and have sex with you and let you do whatever you want, if you will, but never takes the time to connect with you more from an emotional or intimate level. The fact is, we all know that women are intimate and emotional. Men are more logical. But these things are not opposite. They're to complement one another. But the devil, if you will, the evil one, has turned these very things that are used to our benefit against us. If you were to look at it this way, the man is the brain, the woman is the heart. You cannot have the heart arguing with the brain. You cannot have law arguing with grace. And so I hope that you understand the significance of your relationships and how dire it is needed in today's society, because the fact remains we're in serious trouble. Next question, Gus.
All right, this next one is a pretty deep philosophical one, so I'm excited about this. But
Okay.
it's really impressed me. Someone asked that they always hear about God is in control, but in these tumultuous times, who is in control of what we see?
That's a very good question. I've often posed that myself. Growing up, and you hear that God is in control, and God clearly instructs us to keep His commandments. God clearly instructs us to love your neighbor like you love yourself. Don't commit adultery, all of these things of this nature. I totally get that. But when people say God is in control, I'm not saying that He's not, but here's a question to all of my followers, and I would love to hear your answers in the comments. If God is in control, then who's in control of all the killing? Who's in control of all the murder? Who's in control of all the hate? Who's in control of all the crime? If God is in control, but He's not the one who does these things, then there must be some other entity or spiritual force, if you will, that is creating the narrative for these things to exist. Now, based on what the scriptures teach us, we know that these things must come to pass for the fulfillment of the prophecy that's written in the book, which I understand that. But nevertheless, it does pose the question, who is in control of all the evil that we see? But remember this, evil can only flourish when you participate in it. Evil can only flourish when you participate in the evil itself. So by definition, if you will, we give evil its power by becoming evil. If you will, we give good its power by becoming good. Many people do not realize the power that they possess. Now, can you go out here and wave a wand and make the wars go away? Of course not. Maybe these things have to happen to bring about the fulfillment of our existence as a civilization. I do not know. I know what I believe and I know what I know. What I know and what I believe usually aren't the same thing. Knowing something and believing something are not entirely exclusive, if you will, because you can believe something and it might not be true. But when you know something, it requires no faith, if you will. It's a matter of fact as opposed to a matter of opinion. At the end of the day, we are all given a choice in what we choose to do. I just hope that you have it in you, the intellectual wherewithal, the emotional fortitude to choose wisely. Because the only way evil prospers is when good people do nothing. We see society crumbling at the edges, at its phase of society. We see the wars. Obviously in Ukraine, Israel, there's uprise in certain parts of Africa. I saw on the news this morning. There seems to be a great deal of unrest in the world. And yet you see people clapping and applauding that life is nothing wrong because you don't see it affecting you directly. But just remember this. For every soul that dies that you are not aware of does not mean it does not affect you. We are all on a clock. You must ask yourself the deep and most profound questions about your existence. This is easily avoided by distraction of the things that are promoted in society. Always getting money, fancy cars, beautiful homes, purses, and not that there's anything wrong with that. But none of that can you take with you to the grave. You must ask yourself the relevance of your existence and why are you here? And hopefully you can find the reason that you are here and pursue your purpose. I believe that some people are born here to be evil. I really do. And some people are born here to bring the light. It is ultimately up to you to choose what side you will be on. I hope it helps.
We had a listener write in, and they're curious how they can help people without creating expectations and be kind without forming dependencies.
That's a very good question. My kindness has gotten me into trouble many, many times. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I will say this to you again. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I've been kind to many people and tried to help people, and it wind up burning me, if you will. And you know what? You chuck it up to the game. You live, you learn, you move on. When you help people, you must be very wise in how you help them. If you help someone the first time, they will probably appreciate it. You help them a second time, they will appreciate it, but become more comfortable in asking you for something. When you ask them the third time, it becomes a sense of entitlement, if you will. Now, I'm sure I can elaborate on that answer, but the point I'm trying to make to you is relatively simple. There's nothing wrong with helping people, but you must be wise in how you help them. Many people say, well, you should help someone with no questions asked. I've been a victim of this. Because the fact of the matter is once one tends to rely on you for help, if you will, they're always coming to you for help, you're crippling them. You're crippling them from them taking full responsibility of their life. This is not easy for any of us, and all of us at some point in time must come to this crossroad where we must face our obligations as adults, if you will. But many people fail in this, and it's rather unfortunate because it doesn't have to be this way. Can everyone be a multimillionaire? Of course not. Of course not. Can everyone be an entrepreneur? Absolutely not. But it does not mean that everyone cannot reach the maximum of their potential, the maximum of their talent. When you place yourself in an environment where you are dependent upon others, you cripple yourself from actually discovering your true power. Is it easy? It is as easy as you are willing to change. Remember, the concept of change is simple. However, changing is not, because we form habits and belief systems that we operate in, which in turn form the life that we see around us. At the end of the day, you are always given a choice. You can choose to wake up with a bad attitude. You can choose to live in fear. You can choose to live in high anxiety. You can choose to be angry. You are always given a choice. And to be honest, I don't want to make it so simple as though you don't have a right to be angry at something, or you don't have a right to feel a certain way about whatever. But ultimately, your feelings are meant to guide you. They're not meant for you to succumb to. You are stronger than you realize. I heard DMX say this: God won't walk you to what he won't walk you through. I firmly believe that. You must understand whatever challenge you're facing, whatever difficulty that you're having in your life, you can overcome it. As long as there is breath in your body, there is still hope. There is still a chance. Many people don't subscribe to the tenements of hope. Some don't even subscribe to the tenements of faith. But none of this negates the fact that these words exist for a reason, because they do have power. Okay? I hope that helps.
I got a similar question that I don't know if it'll spark any more additional thoughts, but is related to the last question. What is the price of being kind?
The price of being kind is betrayal. The price of being kind is being used. The price of being kind is starting off to do something and the people you started off with don't fulfill their obligations, and it puts you in a precarious situation. Again, I have fell victim to this. Trying to help others achieve their goal is a noble cause. It really is. It is a noble cause. But what have I learned in my 56 years of living? I would have so much success in business because I was always the one spearheading certain projects and things of that nature. But I had to learn that everyone does not have the heart that you might have. Everyone does not think the way that you think. And most importantly, most people don't have the integrity that you might possess. What have I learned by this? Well, in the heat of it, when you think about it, you're relatively upset. It makes you cold and bitter, and it makes you not want to help people anymore. This might seem the most logical approach, but unfortunately, it is not. If it is in your nature to help people, you understand the word nature or natural. If that's what you naturally do, then I would encourage you to continue to do it. We need more people to help others. But ultimately, when people burn you, mistreat you, lie on you, don't do what they're supposed to do, and it affects you in a negative light, it can make you feel as though you don't want to help people. And in that regard, you're the one that's been changed. In other words, you're the one who's been knocked off their path or their destiny. People do not use words like destiny anymore, like these things are just whimsical words that we throw out in our vocabulary just to sound important. No, all of us have a destiny. All of us have a purpose. You are not here by accident. Remember that life is happening to you and through you, and you are the conductor of it. I will tell you this, you will become what you think about. And so what have I learned by those things about being kind? Stay kind, but be very selective who you're kind to. I'm going to say this to you again. What have I learned? I'm not going to stop being kind. In doing that, I will have lost. I will have let a situation change the core of who I am. But I will say this, think deeply before you make a decision. Hurry, but don't rush, if you will, and be very wise about who you choose to be kind to. Because some people do take kindness for a weakness, and some people do take your kindness for granted. It is an unfortunate thing. It's almost a tale of two coins, if you will. But nonetheless, we must have kindness in the world filled with darkness. We must have kindness in the world filled with evil. Some people might beg to differ. Usually those are the ones who aren't kind people. Some people might say that what this guy is saying is gibberish. I really don't care what people think, to be honest with you. You know what? It's really weird. The older you get, the less you care about what people think or what they say. I'm only speaking from my heart. There's no script here. There's no teleprompter, if you will. It's just me in front of this camera and me listening to my mentee saying, Mr. Johnson, you really need to get out there and speak because the things that you say really help people. And I hope that this does. But ultimately, remember, it is your choice. Life is happening to you and through you. You are the conduit of it. And remember, you become what you think about. And be very selective about whom you are kind to. Because believe me, if you're kind to the wrong people, it can bite you in the butt. All right? What else we got?
We had a follower on Instagram DM us and asking, how do I stop spending so much money?
How do I stop spending so much money? You know, years ago, I was very irresponsible with money. I never forget, I think I was married maybe 2 or 3 years. And my wife and I were in our 20s. I think we were 26, 27, somewhere around there. And I would go to the ATM machine and I'd say, oh, it's $4,800 in the account. And my wife would say to me, no, sweetheart, that's not $4,800 in the account. These things haven't cleared yet. We would get into a argument or something like that. And it was just, when I look back on it, it was really silly, but I didn't know any better. But as I've gotten older, I realized all the money I spent at the strip clubs, all the money I spent buying weed, all the money I spent on alcohol, all the money I spent on, let's just keep it real, stuff that I really didn't need. And you look back on it years later, and when you add it up, it's tens of thousands of dollars. It really is. So how do you stop spending so much money? Well, I think that the advice I would give anybody, there's a big difference between what you need and what you want. There's a huge difference there. And as long as your needs are met, food, clothing, shelter, transportation, medical, those type of things, once your needs are met, I'm not telling you not to go spend any money and have a good time, but after you have those basic needs met, what I would add another layer to that would be your investments. So it'd be food, clothing, shelter, your health and all that, then your investments. And so when you're doing this while you're young, I'm talking to all people, but particularly to young people, because I don't want you to make the mistakes that I made. I made a lot of mistakes when I was young. Don't let this gray beard fool you. I made a ton of mistakes when I was a young man, wasted a lot of money, doing very irresponsible things, if you will. It was fun at the time, but looking back on it, it really wasn't worth it. So what I would say to you is this: if you want to put yourself in a better position, you must have better spending habits. We're commanded to be good stewards over what we're given. You're commanded to be a good steward over whatever you have. Be a good steward over it. But if you're always at the Target or Walmart or the supermarket, or you're in a convenience store, you're grabbing this and you're grabbing that, and every time you're swiping your card or you're tapping your card, you're seeing your account go down, 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 down over some temporary pleasure. It could be a candy bar, I don't know, a bag of chips, I don't care, whatever it is. What I learned to do was just be disciplined. I stopped eating out so much, and my wife and I started cooking at home, if you will. And believe it or not, I was a cook for many years in the hospitality industry, so I did a lot of the cooking. You know, she can cook well now, but back in the day, we was going through it, so we had to go through that. I'm just jabbing my wife a bit. She's right here in the room with me. She's over there laughing, but. You know what we did? We just made up our minds that, hey, what do we need to do to put ourselves in a better position? And I also would say this to you. It helps if you can talk to someone about these things. You know, talk to your parents. Ask them. Talk to your boys. I mean, someone who's responsible. If you see them, and I'm not saying if they got plenty of bread, they can't wild out. That's cool, too. But having 2 and 3 Phantoms sitting in your garage collecting dust is not a very good investment. It's just not. It's just not. I'm not saying not to get you a Phantom. I'm not saying not to get you a nice whip, if you will, but you only can drive one car at a time. You only can live in one house at a time. And that's just the truth. Now, those who are fortunate enough that can live beyond that, hey, kudos, good for them. But for the average person, that's just not their reality. So how do I stop spending money? Well, I stop spending money by understanding first, number one, where is my money going? What am I spending my money on? And then number 2, how can I increase some cash flow here? How can I increase my money? So the best thing that I can tell you to do is to be disciplined and just check yourself. Just check yourself. It's just that simple. You don't need me to tell you to check yourself. Check yourself, see where you're spending your money at. What do you need to do to get better habits? And always, education, knowledge is the key. Remember, we are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. We are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. In other words, if you took the word knowledge and take ledge off of it, no. What? You don't know. Because if one knows better, one should do better. And because when we're younger, we don't know better, we find ourselves in our 30s and 40s trying to catch up, if you will. Many of my mentees are experiencing this very thing as we speak. It's not something that can't be overcome, but I would highly encourage any of us, even if you're a senior citizen, you still can ask yourself, where is my funds going and what can I do to better my financial situation? But always it starts with you. Look at where your money's going and figure out what the steps you need to take to make the appropriate changes. I hope it helps.
And lastly, I just have a statement. The world is in trouble. We had a lot of people write in just concerned about a lot of things in general. Do you have any thoughts about either why or what we can do?
The world is in grave trouble. The world is in grave trouble, and many of us are blinded to it. You know, we're distracted. People are pretty easily controlled, and a lot of people don't want to have this conversation, but many people, millions of people, are easily controlled until their back's against the wall, and then you see people revolt, and you see the government bring out guns and tanks and things of that nature to quiet it down. The fact of the matter is, my personal belief is that the things that you see in the world are a reflection of mankind's own thoughts. In other words, if we become what we think about, then obviously many people are thinking about war. Many people are thinking about death. Many people are bringing about the very things that we don't want. There seems to be some hidden force, if you will, some hidden agenda to get people to be as distracted, to be unhealthy, to be angry, to be fearful, to be cold, non-loving, non-caring, and all the things that we see permeate throughout our society. What should we do here? Well, the first rule of nature is self-preservation. You can do nothing for no one if you cannot take care of yourself. Once you've accomplished that goal, I would highly encourage you to prepare. Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance, and if you have persistence, patience, and perseverance, the odds are you will survive. But many won't. They will fail because they simply did not take the time to plan accordingly. If you think that the world is going to get better on its own, you are sadly mistaken. We are in dire straits here. The country is simply divided. It really is. You're giving the illusion of choice, Republican, Democrat, if you will. You're given the illusion of choice. You really have no choice because in the sense, the people really have no power. Some might disagree. But ask yourself, if the people had power, then why is the country in the states that it's in? Why is the world in the condition that it's in if the power really was held with the people? The governments have power. It's the governments that have the power. And it's the government that govern or rule over the people. Now, these people are placed here through elections and any other things that we might come up with, and not just here in this country, but throughout the world. But I will say this to you. If education and intelligence were indicators of a certain way of thinking or being, then obviously our civilization is highly unintelligent. It is not intelligent to kill people. It is not intelligent to murder people. It is not intelligent to have people in poverty. It is not intelligent for war. But yet, the word peace would have no reference, if you will, if war did not exist. The word love would have no meaning if hate wasn't possible. Do you understand that everything has its opposite? Think about it deeply. Just like there's life and then there's death. There's hot and there's cold. There's war, there's peace. There's success, there's failure. Everything has its opposite. This is known as the duality of mankind, good versus evil. The question you must ask yourself is, who are you and what part do you play in it? Many people are distracted through their everyday lives, just trying to maintain, pay their bills, raise their family, go to Little League, go to the AIU, play basketball, or whatever the case might be. And this is cool to do. This is the societal structure in which we live. But if you think about it deeply, none of these things really mean nothing. There's no law that says mankind has to be entertained, none whatsoever. But you're entertained to be distracted from asking the most profound and deep questions you must ask yourself. Number one, why are we here? Number two, how did we get here? And number three, where are we going? Now, I'm sure many people will answer with different religious beliefs, and that's fine. But the fact of the matter is, most people believe something. They really don't know. Even if we all had special experiences, I myself had witnessed what one would deem a miracle. Honestly, I have. And maybe one day I'll share it with the audience. Is there something governing us? Yes. What part do we play in it? I guess that's still to be determined, if you will. But think about it and ask yourself the most profound questions. Why am I here? What am I supposed to do? And where am I going to wind up? And who am I going to help along the way? You know, I was saying earlier in the studio, it's great to have money. It really is. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. But I will say this to you. Money does not bring people to your grave. Money will not bring people to your grave. Someone's headstone with a lot of money, their flowers are dead. And the guy right next to him who had no money, someone still comes and sees about their flowers because they love that person. Money is a great tool, but it is only that, a tool. Do not let it define you nor consume you. Remember, for the love of money is the root of all evil. Hey, listen, this is Mr. Johnson. I thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that this in some way helped you, get you to think from a different perspective, know who you are, know how powerful you are, and know that you can change your life. It is entirely up to you. You are given a choice. You are. There's no law that says you have to go to prison. There's no law saying you have to be a whoremonger. There's no law saying you have to kill people. There's no law saying you have to not be the best that you can be. But if you subscribe to the tenements and the narratives that are promoted in our society, which of darkness, evil, betrayal, unforgiveness, meanness, cruelty, depression, anxiety, worry, fear, doubt, unbelief. If you subscribe to these tenements, by definition, these tenements will take root in your mind and they will bear the fruit of the seeds that you have planted. But if you take that same coin and you turn it over and you put hope, joy, peace, determination, you guys get what I'm saying, then those things will bear fruit as well. Your mind is the soil. Your thoughts are the seeds. You water it with your words. Thank you so much. I hope it helps. I'll see you soon. Take care.